Hello, hello, hello. Whew. Boy, do I need a haircut. Hello, everybody. Status Coup in the house. Hope everybody's having a lovely, lovely day. Quite a lot to talk about. Not a ton of time because I have a call in about an hour with a source that I need to take. So, still wanted to do a live stream. Um, and Jen, I believe, will be joining us in a little bit. So that should be good. Please smash that like button, share this live stream. The more people that press the like button, the more people that share this live stream, the more people that will see it. Boy, boy, what a show yesterday on Rockfin. I'll wait till more people come in. But please share this, all that good stuff. Colin, if you could put in the description at the top the membership link because we want to push that. Also, quite a lot going on. Honestly, I wish I had 5 hours because between the storms, now there is a new COVID variant in America that is less or possibly not at all um, vaccines cannot stop, evade the vaccines spreading. There is now new data in terms of what I said to all the people, frankly, including Glenn Greenwald, that, oh, let's, if children aren't going to die from COVID, who cares? Let's put them back into schools. Children have less risk of death. And I said, well, the only risk is not death. We don't know the actual long-term effects on children who get COVID. Well, new data out of the UK is showing us that there is long-term harm being done to children who contract COVID. Of course, the horrific Texas abortion law, and now the retroactive fight blaming Susan Sarandon, Jill Stein, Bernie Sanders, and the mailman for the fact that the Supreme Court is now in significant Republican control. So we have a lot to talk about. Again, I think Jen will be joining us in a little bit. She's just getting out of a family thing. But smash that like button, share this live stream. Also want to give you the good news. Yesterday, we did an awesome live stream on Rockfin. Wednesdays, we do our exclusive show on Rockfin with Robbie Martin, incredible filmmaker, did an amazing documentary about the war on terror and how basically neocons and think tanks helped create the war on terror post 9/11. Also has done great reporting on the post 9/11 anthrax attack, correcting a lot of the government propaganda that was put out. So we did, I think it was an hour and 20 minutes on Rockfin on the anthrax attacks yesterday. And wow, I learned a lot of scandalous stuff. And from that live stream, I don't know what the number is yet at the moment, but as of an hour ago, we had gained 17 new Rockfin premium members. So I'm super excited about that. Thank you to everybody who signed up for our Rockfin premium. You could go watch that awesome interview with Robbie Martin. Also happens to be the brother of the great Abby Martin. Go watch that. You could watch Jen and I's great show on JFK's assassination. Jen and I believe, next Wednesday are going to be doing more on 9/11. These are things we cannot cover, unfortunately, on YouTube for fear of YouTube and Big Brother throwing us off for covering anything controversial that might actually have some facts behind it. So thank you to our new Rockfin subscribers. Awesome. We're excited to do the next show next Wednesday. So I want to get to today's news. I didn't know where to start. You have Texas's, Jen is going to come on, so I'll let her really speak to it. I don't want to, as a man, speak to how terrible this is for women. Texas's horrific law that is now essentially overturned or basically got around Roe versus Wade. Obviously, a lot of threat now that this could spread like wildfire to other Republican states that kind of do copycat laws of this, making it particularly difficult for poor minority women, poor whites, poor blacks, poor Latinos who don't have the money to travel by plane or else other mechanisms to other states to get a safe abortion. So we definitely want to cover that. But I got to tell you, I think we need to lead with these storms. Louisiana is still devastated, parts of it underwater. Still no electricity for huge chunks of New Orleans and other parts of Louisiana. And Ida has now made its way north to New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, the Northeast, and the media capital of the country. And you'll notice that media coverage seems to escalate. Seems to be a lot more intensive media coverage when something affects the wealthy cocktail crowd of corporate journalists in New York all the way down to DC. You see this intensive coverage of the storm last night on CNN, MSNBC, other channels. Well, it was affecting them. New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Philadelphia. But if you painfully watched CNN in particular, you might notice that something was completely missing from their coverage. And please smash that like button. 100 watching now. We need a lot more than 100 people to see this. Smash that like button. Share this live stream. After this coverage of the flood and the corporate media propaganda, we're going to go right into the Supreme Court and the propaganda going on about the Supreme Court and how Susan Sarandon is to blame for all of our problems in America. But Colin, if we could start, and we'll start and stop this clip because I don't want to get an issue from CNN. This is last night when I turned it on. I turned on Don Lemon on CNN. I didn't want to watch Fox. I didn't want to watch MSNBC. I didn't really want to watch CNN, but it just seemed the most logical. Let's play some of this and let's see if anything is missing from Don Lemon's play-by-play of the storm.
So our breaking news tonight is that we're covering devastating flooding here in the Northeast, and we have a tornado watch that's in effect now till 1 a.m. Listen, we're going to stay on the air for you until at least 1 a.m. So I'm just getting the information. So a lot of it I'm seeing just as you are. So I'm going to walk you through. This is in Mullica Hill that you see right there in New Jersey. That was a tornado captured by Bob Thomas. So there you see it blowing through. And then later we're going to get you some images. I believe there's stills of the aftermath of this tornado going through New Jersey earlier. We also have shots of our subway system here in New York City inundated with water, flooding there. You can see it. The entire subway service all over the city of New York City suspended because of the weather from Ida, which includes obviously rain, flooding. Look at that. See at the very back of that? Look how that water is just pouring into the New York City subway. So the entire New York City subway system out of commission right now. And then there are other trains that feed into New York City, the 7 train, Staten Island Railway, and all of that. They're on delays. The MTA checking it out, and they're going to update us. In New Jersey, the governor has declared a state of emergency. The governor, Phil Murphy, is saying, urging residents, stay off the roads, stay home, and stay safe. Look at all of the flood waters. This is tonight in the Northeast. This is Bloomfield, New Jersey. And if you look at this, you can see why the governor of New Jersey has declared a state of emergency.
So, Colin, I think we're about, you could come out of it. I think we're about, I don't know, a minute in, maybe a minute, 30 seconds in. We're seeing New York City's subway completely flooded. We're seeing parts of suburban New Jersey completely flooded. And like cars, sedans, and mini SUVs, like basically underwater. We are seeing, water going in pretty much everywhere. And I don't know, there's really no discussion of the cause of such carnage. Yes, we know it's a hurricane, Ida, but, generally, other than Hurricane Sandy, a couple other nasty hurricanes, in the Northeast, you generally don't see this kind of flooding, this kind of carnage in the Northeast. And I don't know, just watching CNN, of course, the images are important to see. The flooding is important to see, having on elected officials is important to see because those elected officials will then give viewers the necessary emergency hotlines they could call if they need help and the necessary information. But I don't know. Call me just wanting too much. I kind of want to know what's causing this, Mr. Lemon. Let's play more.
Flash flood emergencies issued Wednesday evening by the National Weather Service, stretching all the way just west of Philadelphia through northern New Jersey. Dozens of water rescues happening, taking place, and numerous roads have been closed. So we'll get the images up as we get them. The latest flash flood emergency included Newark, which is New Jersey's largest city. You're looking at that, images from Newark, New Jersey right now. These are the rainfall estimates for parts of central and eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Range from 4 to 8 inches of water, with some isolated locations approaching 10 inches. Some parts saw 3 to 4 inches of rain an hour throughout Wednesday. We've been speaking to our meteorologist, Pedram Javahari, who's been telling us about the rainfall, the 1 hour rainfall totals in New York City, and which is measured usually in Central Park, the highest since they've started keeping record. Let's go to our meteorologist now, Pedram, to give us some perspective on what's going on. Listen, this tornado watch in the Northeast, which includes New York City, till 1 a.m., I'm not sure they're going to extend it, but this is some really bad stuff.
It is. Yeah, you know, when we're talking about tornadoes in this region, I just pulled up the latest numbers on that. You're looking at New Jersey, it gets 1 tornado on average per year. They've had 10 this year, by the way. This would be number 11 if confirmed. And of course, from what we can see, it'll be confirmed over the next 24 hours. But then you notice we've had reports of at least 4 other tornadoes across Maryland. And this is the setup here through tonight. So we do expect to see at least several additional tornadoes just with the rotation of what is left of Ida. Often when you have tropical systems or even the remnants of tropical systems, so they're still rotating pretty well into the atmosphere. So that creates the friction needed to spawn tornadoes. Usually they still stay on the smaller side, about say EF0, EF1, even EF2 at the greatest when it comes to tropical induced tornadoes. But when it happens into the overnight hours, the threat levels increase just because people, of course, will be in bed and potentially caught off guard, and that makes it that much more dangerous. But the rainfall amount's really what's most staggering to me, Don. You noted the 3 inches, 3.15 inches in 1 hour that just came down in Central Park. They've been keeping records since the 1800s in Central Park for weather observations almost every single day, and never have we seen a 1 hour observation push to that value. And the National Weather Service in New York City issuing a flash flood emergency, which is, again, as rare as it gets. They've never issued a flash flood emergency either. And that differs from a warning, that warnings meaning floods are imminent or occurring. Flash flood emergencies meaning water rescues are taking place, and it's catastrophic flooding that is occurring. So this is another level above that as far as the severity of what's happening there in the Northeast.
Colin, could you come back? And welcome Jen Dyes back in the groove here.
Hi, everybody.
Jen, I'm basically pointing out there seems to be a missing component to CNN's coverage last night. But if the viewers watch that, we're now, by the way, I think 3.5, 4 minutes into this. He's got the weatherman on. They're talking about some wildly unheard of, unusual things. New Jersey gets 1 tornado a year. This last night was number 11. They're talking about flash flood warnings being declared for the first time in many areas. The weatherman used the term catastrophic. This is the equivalent of like we're showing a burning fire on cable news. I don't know. Let's just say, not that we want this to happen, but an Amazon warehouse. We don't want this to happen. Just talking about it. And cable news just talking about the fire, but is there any investigation on who started the fire? Is there any thought on what led to this fire? Was it an accident? Mechanical failure? Human arsonist? I don't know, Jen. We just showed 3.5, 4 minutes. And if I don't want to put poor Colin through this, if we would have clipped out 8 to 10 minutes, there's not one point on the fact that yes, you had Hurricane Sandy, but other than that, you don't generally have this kind of thing in the Northeast. You generally don't have the number of storms we're having coming in the South. We have always had hurricanes in the South, but The strength of the wind is significantly more than normal. The flooding significantly more than normal. Not a word from Mr. Lemon or his good-looking weatherman on, I don't know, carbon emissions are, burning ice caps or icebergs. The temperature keeps going up all around the world. You got Canada was 120 degrees a couple of weeks ago. The West was on fire. While all of this is going on, Tahoe is on fire. I don't know. Maybe I didn't go to journalism school. I pretty kind of think that should be an emphasis on anybody's coverage of what is causing this crazy, abnormal flooding in the Northeast.
So, first of all, hi everyone. I apologize for being late. I had something to do with my son's school, so here I am. But to come into the conversation, what I can say is I live in Maryland, and our capital city, Annapolis, just had a tornado as well, and that. Obviously, it's, not the first time there's been a tornado in this area. I remember being young and everyone being all upset in Delaware because a tornado was coming, and everyone was all upset and so shocked because it was so rare. But was I shocked when I saw the news that Annapolis had a tornado? And for those of us who are geographically challenged, with which I am, unless I've lived in those states, Delaware and Maryland are right next to each other. Annapolis is about an hour and a half away from where I grew up. So it went from a huge surprise when I was young to have a tornado in this area to, wow, that's awful. And it's just going to keep happening. It's going to happen more and more after I saw what happened in Annapolis. And I see Jordan was just talking about New Jersey, I assume New York, and these so-called uncommon weather events are just ramping up. And this is just the start of it. So for it to be shocking when mainstream media actually talks about the climate crisis, that's just simply reporting facts. Even if you go into the very basics of journalism, even the most corporatist of corporatists journalists, they would say, yes, it's our responsibility to report the facts, not opinion. But at this point, they're still not doing that. They're holding on to the line of, we don't know what's happening, or these other factors are happening, or climate change is just one part of it. And they don't really emphasize exactly how dangerous this is and where our Earth is going to end up and where we all are going to end up. What kind of world are we leaving behind for our children? Because this is more and more common.
And by the way, smash that like button, share this live stream. It's very similar to how they cover mass shootings. I mean, every time they cover a mass shooting, it's rinse and repeat, outrage for a few days. Is this going to be the one that changes things? Very rarely will they actually have Republican lawmakers taking blood money from the NRA and elsewhere on and actually, go after them for this blood money, and rinse and repeat off to the next topic. Generally, you don't even get coverage of mass shootings for longer than a day or two anymore. And with these, I mean, I remember Chris Cuomo. I don't know where was it, Florida or somewhere a year or two ago. He was out there, with his muscle shirt and, credit. He's out there covering a hurricane. I'm not belittling that. No mention. It's like literally being inside a burning building and nobody asking at all or wanting to know, who burnt down this building. And of course, you got to do both things as a journalist. You got to give the news in real time. Where is the flooding happening? They had the governor of New York on, who gave hotlines and information for people that they could call if they were in trouble. So I'm not saying like only do a commentary on the climate inferno that's causing this, but to be absent of any. I mean, I think Brian Stelter, who was reporting, i.e. went outside his house in New Jersey, but he was kind of reporting from this yesterday. I think he vaguely mentioned that climate is playing a role in this. It is insane. And this is why, a big reason why, of course, our corrupt politicians are the bigger reason. But when cable news and outlets just kind of mention, climate and the climate catastrophe is playing a role here. It's not playing a role. It is causing it. It's causing it. And by the way, CNN, and not just CNN, they happen to have a lot of fossil fuckers who buy ad time, buy commercial time. The New York Times literally has a oil conference every year. I think it's called Money and Oil or something. We could go down the list. I've seen Political Playbook, the popular Washington.
Oh, they're often just sponsored by the worst of the worst on
right.
Playbook.
I've seen them sponsored, I think, by ExxonMobil and others. So all of these outlets, that their duty is to report not just the facts in real time, show people the flooding, but why is this happening? Bring on scientists, bring on climate experts. When you go to commercial, there might be reasons they're not doing that. And I want to respond. I saw one comment, Andrew Ryan, reporting the news and giving people a heads up that massive rain is coming is also their job. They underplayed Ida and thought it was over. Yeah, I don't agree with that, Andrew, but I appreciate the comment. People don't need a heads up. It's right in front of them. Before the fact, before the rainfall hits, there needs to be reporting on, prepare yourself. Hurricane Ida, which originated down south, is coming up. But in real time, while this is happening, you don't need to give people a heads up that what's in front of them is happening. You need to give people, I think Don Lemon used the phrase before you came on, Jen, here, for some perspective on what's going on, and then went to the weatherman. Well, where's the fucking perspective? This weatherman, maybe he has a gag order not to mention it. He's talking about, tenfold increase in tornadoes in New Jersey. He's talking about flash flood warnings that never happen in New York. By the way, it wasn't just New York and New Jersey, Connecticut, Philadelphia. I believe it was even possibly lower than that. So it wasn't just like New York and New Jersey. There's parts of Connecticut. Like I saw a video of highways where cars are almost completely submerged in the water. So I don't know, at a certain point, you have to start calling it what it is. This is not news coverage. It's the bare minimum, and it's theater. They are providing theatrical coverage, real-time play-by-play, with basically, as they say in the news business, burying the lead. They are burying the lead. And it's, by the way, we mentioned mass shootings, Jen. This is also the same thing they do with police brutality protests. They basically do play-by-play of these protesters over here. This is what they're doing. The police are over here. Let's not get into, the fact that the police need to be the police that just killed. Name your black man that they're covering the protests for. That the police need to be removed. That we need to start investigating police unions and their influence over politicians. It's all play-by-play without actually delivering to the audience what's driving all of this. Because it's not like what you're seeing in Louisiana, now up the Northeast, is a one-off. It's going to be happening more and more.
So I want to relate this to something that I experienced in the field. Last year, actually probably around exactly a year ago, there, of course, were more wildfires. Wildfires going on throughout Oregon and Washington State a bit, and California. And so I went and I reported near LA, about an hour away from LA. And there were horrible wildfires that devastated many different areas. But one story that I zeroed in on, and I was lucky enough to connect with this woman, was someone who owned, she's trying to rebuild it, and I want to follow up and see how she's doing, but she had an animal sanctuary, and it was completely devastated. She was able to get her animals out through, I don't know, luck and a prayer, but her entire sanctuary was devastated. And in speaking with her and and speaking with other residents whose homes, some were left standing, some were also devastated, and speaking with these neighbors and speaking with people that week who'd been impacted in different ways by the wildfires, the general consensus, and even though this was by LA, this was very extraordinarily rural, like maybe 3 houses are your only neighbors for a while sort of deal. And so this wasn't, I would say, not a very progressive area, but we're at a point where climate change is just the truth, right? And it surprised me that even these folks who have been personally, people say you can't understand things or truly care about things until you're really personally impacted, which is true in many cases, but these folks were personally impacted by climate change, and they were not informed about climate change. And if I'm aggregating here responses, but if they did believe that climate change was a thing, then it was only maybe partially responsible or not our main focus, or on and on. And so my surprise was, wow, these people have lost their in some cases businesses, in other cases homes, very important belongings. I will never forget walking across the burned out, the home that was on the animal sanctuary. It felt like, those videos that they take underground of the Titanic, for example, where everything's, that's one of the scenes in the Titanic movie. But if you've seen documentaries, whatever, that eerie, just darkness where things just don't look right. It's surreal. It feels not real. But that's what it reminded me of, walking through that burned out structure. There were no walls. There was nothing that could fall on me because it was so burned down, by the way. But you would look down and you would see things like a cup that someone might have in their kitchen, where you just toss maybe like a little tiny pair of scissors, or like a loose nail that you find, whatever. Just people have those, a kind of collect all. And that there was something like that just on the ground. Like you would find these little pieces of life still there in this devastation, or what once was like a part of someone's daily life. And even through that, these folks are not given the information about climate change and how it is, in fact, very directly impacting them. And that is the fault of our media, which has a duty to report the facts, to report the news.
Absolutely. And as a quick segue, maybe a weird segue, but I won't be on that long today because I have a call coming up, an important call. But another thing the media is lying about, and as a result, the Hillary Clinton owls are owling about. And this is on a serious topic. I'm glad Jen's with me, because honestly, yeah, I could comment on the Texas law, but obviously I'm not a woman. So I think I'd rather hear from a woman about this than me. But we covered it a little bit yesterday. Last night, during all this carnage and flooding, the Supreme Court decided not to block the Texas law that basically is overturning on a local level Roe versus Wade. It's draconian. It does not allow abortion beyond 6 weeks. Obviously, I don't have the data, but maybe you do, Jen. A lot of women don't know they're pregnant at that point. And basically has created this bounty.
Yeah. So before you continue, when someone says I'm 6 weeks pregnant, they're actually only 4 weeks pregnant. They count for these things. They count the 2 weeks from your last period. And so they add on 2 weeks. So when someone says 6 weeks, that is only 4 weeks after fertilization. And that's going to always be pretty much an estimate based on the woman's period. So that 4 weeks is a lot of women have no idea that they're pregnant. They've maybe missed a period. Some women still have a period, which a lot of people don't realize. In some cases, there's spotting that can occur, and the woman is pregnant and assumes that that's her period, and that is just like weird that month. things can affect your menstruation, medication you take, whether you're eating enough or too much, whether you're exercising, whether you're not. So women can often assume. So just for some context there, for folks who haven't been pregnant before or are men perhaps and aren't aware of those kind of nuances. But so 6 weeks pregnant, so-called, is not a lot of time. A lot of women have no clue they're pregnant.
And by the way, you probably know more than I do. Well, you definitely know more than I do. But there's a whole class of women that could literally be like 5 or 6 months pregnant who also don't know. That's more uncommon. But
that is dramatically more uncommon.
No, I know, but it exists. Yeah. It exists,
Yeah.
does it not? Right.
Yeah, it exists on TLC. I think I do know of one woman who experienced that. I wouldn't use that as like a point.
Egg on my face. But
no, it's not out there outlandish,
Right.
but it's simply not common.
But obviously, I mean, the bottom line is, before we get to the politics of it, it's horrendous, particularly for poorer people. I mean, if you're well-to-do, you could leave Texas if you need to get an abortion. But most people cannot do that, or can't afford the flight, can't afford to travel. If they could, they can't get time off work for that kind of thing. So it is essentially criminalizing poverty, and it is also really creating a bounty system on abortion, because it is essentially it's like a most wanted sign in the the wild, wild west in the old days. They're saying that if you find somebody who is driving a woman to get an abortion past a certain time, if you know of the abortion provider giving it, you could sue them civilly, and then they will have to pay you $10,000. I cannot think of a more draconian, reckless, dangerous thing. There's already reports in Texas where more right-wingers and pro-lifers are showing up outside of abortion clinics to, inspect who's within the law. It is dangerous, dangerous, dangerous. And honestly, the Democratic Party right now could get rid of the filibuster and enshrine Roe versus Wade into law. I mean, that they can do. President Biden can do that. Go ask. I mean, I don't want to comment on Jeffrey Toobin, but he knows law. He said it. Other people are saying right now they can get rid of the filibuster and just be done with the Supreme Court, enshrine Roe versus Wade into law. Why they're not doing that? I think we know why the Democrats do and don't do certain things. And let's just call it what it is, Jen. They're going to fundraise the hell off of this.
Yeah.
They're going to fundraise the hell off of this under the guise of women. I mean, I think they care, but they're also going to make money off of it for the midterms and probably 2024. But I want to get to what I think is not the most important thing. The most important thing is women.
I actually think they don't care. I think these lawmakers don't care at all. If they lose or if they let go of the fight of abortion, then they lose. That's like one of, I need some statistics here, but that's one of the top issues for Republicans who are single issue voters. It's all about abortion. So I think that this is my opinion based on evidence, though, that the majority of these Republican lawmakers could not care less. They don't actually.
I was talking about
care.
Democrats. They want to fundraise too.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Democrats, I would say most of them care, but they don't mind getting to fundraise crazy off of this.
Yes, I misunderstood.
Yeah, but I want to get to the political thing, because it just seems like we're in a place where we're gonna be in the year 2031 still blaming Susan Sarandon for everything that's gone wrong. I know you've been busy, Jen.
She's so powerful, Susan.
I don't know if you saw, but Jesus Christ, Susan Sarandon is under attack.
I've been off Twitter. I've been off most social, so I don't know why is Susan under attack.
Well, they're blaming her obviously for Hillary Clinton losing because she supported Jill Stein and said nasty things about Hillary Clinton.
But wait, they re-brought that up.
And if Hillary Clinton would have won, there would not be a 6-3 Supreme Court. Democrats would have control of the Supreme Court. So I want to take a trip down memory lane, because obviously the Hillary Clinton owls have selective amnesia. And as usual,
what are Hillary Clinton owls?
They owl. They come out and they owl at progressives and basically try and erase history. But I want to go back to 2016, okay? Because I know Democrats in general, especially corporatists, have no agency in anything, and it's always somebody else's fault. It's Ralph Nader's fault, even though Al Gore lost his home state of Tennessee. If he would have won Tennessee, he'd be the president. A lot of other stupid things Al Gore did politically that cost him that. Frankly, he did win. The Supreme Court stole it from him, but they want to blame Ralph Nader. They want to blame everybody but themselves. But I don't know, Jen, who was president in 2016?
Well, I mean, it depends. It's Mr. Donald Trump.
No, 2016.
Yeah, he became president. Well, in 2017, he was inaugurated. Right. I thought you meant who won.
No. Okay. President Obama was still the president in 2016.
Indeed,
sure,
he was.
Sure, Republicans controlled the Senate and the House, but he was still president. So I don't know. Scalia died, and Obama, according to the Constitution, had the right to appoint a Supreme Court justice. He came out. Obviously, Mitch McConnell has no heart, has no ethics, and said to hell with the Constitution. Ted Cruz, too, Mr. Constitutionalist, and said, yeah, we're not even giving that person a hearing. And what did Obama do in response to that? Nothing. Are you telling me the president of the United States, forget that the Republicans control the House and the Senate, with the Constitution on his side, had no agency, no power, no leverage to do anything to fight for his attorney general that he, based on the Constitution, it was Obama's duty and responsibility to submit this name and then that person to go through a Senate hearing. So, yes, Merrick Garland is not exactly a progressive per se. I don't think he'd be voting to overturn Roe versus Wade. I think we could agree to that. So I want to go back here. Colin made these graphics, so thank you. Colin, can we go to the 2016 graphic I asked for? So here's 2016. And if Obama would have fought for Merrick Garland, and let's just specify what that means. I don't know, Jen, could he have gone to Kentucky, held a rally shaming Mitch McConnell? Could he have threatened every Republican in a swing state or a purple state or a purple district that if you deny my attorney general, my Supreme Court justice a hearing, I will personally campaign against you all over this country? Could he have galvanized women's rights groups, labor groups, Supreme Court scholars around him for speeches, press conferences at the White House? Would he have won? Maybe not. Would he have a better chance of winning if he would have done that? Yes. It's the same thing Bernie Sanders said if he were to become president. I'm not going to first bring in Mitch McConnell and try to negotiate with him. I'm going to first bring in Mitch McConnell and say, look out the window at my army. Right? So put that back up, Colin. Let's just say, for argument's sake, Obama would have done all those things. It would have been a 5-4 Democrat Supreme Court before Trump won. So then, moving forward, 2017, if Obama would have done that, even with Trump as president, you would have had still a 5-4 Supreme Court. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was still with us. The only difference would have been Kennedy, the Republican, retired, and you would have swapped in Neil Gorsuch. Still a 5-4 Democrat Supreme Court, even under Trump. Fast forward to 2020. Unfortunately, Ruth Bader Ginsburg lost. Not lost, excuse me. Passed away.
She lost.
A loss for all of us, but
Yeah.
passed away. In this scenario, I mean, give or take, who knows? Maybe they would have nominated Kavanaugh at that point, but it seems to me they wanted to nominate a woman to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg. In this scenario, Trump gets his second nominee, and the Republicans take a 5-4 lead. A 5-4 lead is a whole nother planet, Jen. 5-4 advantage, shall we say, is a whole nother planet than 6-3, because we saw in many cases, including Obamacare and others, that oftentimes, even when the Republicans had a 5-4 advantage, that sometimes Anthony Kennedy, at the time a Republican judge, would come over to the liberal with the liberals, so that the liberals would win a majority ruling. In some cases, like Obamacare, Chief Justice John Roberts sided with the liberals, giving the liberals a 5-4 advantage. And last night, the Republicans still were victorious by 5-4 in terms of choosing to not block Texas's ruling. But John Roberts moved over to the liberals. So Republicans have a 6-3 right now advantage. Roberts moved over with the liberals last night in dissent and saying that the Supreme Court should block this. But last night, if President Obama would have fought, it would have had a much better chance of having Supreme Court Justice Merrick Garland. And if that happened, last night would have been 5-4 liberals, because Roberts would have moved over with the 4 justices, including Merrick Garland. So, Jen, people will respond to this, shoulda, coulda, woulda, Jordan, you're being unrealistic. Republicans had the Senate. Republicans had the House. Obama could only do so much. Well, I don't know. Call me cynical. I think if it was the opposite and Donald Trump was president and the Democrats had the House and the Senate, and the Democrats said, we're not even going to give your Supreme Court justice a hearing, which they would never do because they're just spineless, I'm pretty sure Donald Trump would have found a way to get his Supreme Court justice in there, legal or not. By the way, when Amy Coney Barrett was nominated like 5 minutes after Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death and right shortly before the 2020 election, Democrats didn't have to hold a hearing. They could have said, no, this is illegitimate. We are not holding a hearing. By your standard, Mitch McConnell, we cannot hold a hearing for a Supreme Court justice during an election year, and we will not do it for you because it's a Republican judge. Hell, they could have chained themselves to the building and stopped it if they wanted. Would have been historic. So, Jen, there just seems to be no agency. It's always Susan Sarandon's fault or Jill Stein's fault or Bernie Sanders' fault. I'm going to get to the other reasons why it's not their fault. But I don't know what your thoughts are.
It's also controversial among, I would say, the Pumas. Those are the Hillary folks, throwback to 2012. 2008 Pumas. And I think that this is controversial among that group, among Obama people. But Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I believe, should have retired, and Obama should have been able to put in a justice at that point. And, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is...
just like Stephen Breyer, by the way, should retire.
Yeah. And Justice Ginsburg did a lot of good things. She did other things that were not good. And in the end, the Democratic Party is so hubristic that they make this mistake over and over again. Well, for one thing, they feel like they don't have to fight for anything, as Jordan has covered. They don't truly fight. They certainly don't fight in the way to win as Republicans do. And so take responsibility. It's not Susan Sarandon. It's not Jill Stein. There were plenty of opportunities for Obama, for Ruth Bader Ginsburg, for all of these heroes of liberal normie Democrats. There were plenty of chances for them to actually do something to prevent this, and not the all-powerful Susan Sarandon.
Right. And I also want to get into the other reasons outside of Obama could have fought if he had a spine. I mean, he didn't fight for anything. Said he ran on single payer, got in the door. Wall Street told him, no, fella. Okay. I mean, plenty of other things. I mean, he said he was going to end the Afghanistan war. He sent in 40,000 more troops. Jesus. But I also want to mention some things, because I think the Pumas, as Jen said, have some selective amnesia there. Well,
they have a lot of things.
well, the data of 2016 shows every single Jill Stein voter could have voted for Hillary Clinton. She still would have lost. That's the data. Those are the numbers. But don't tell them that. Every single Jill Stein voter could have voted for Hillary Clinton. She still would have lost. In fact, Gary Johnson had a more significant effect on Hillary Clinton than Jill Stein. Putting that aside, they don't want to say this, and I'm not blaming black voters, but this is the truth. Hillary Clinton lost because she had depressed turnout among black voters in Milwaukee, of Wisconsin, and in Detroit. Biden, 4 years later, got an uptick in black voters in those states, including out of Atlanta, Georgia. Huge increase in black voters in Atlanta, Georgia. That's how we won Georgia. I'm not a fan of Stacey Abrams politically. I think she's just another corporatist, but it was her army, her grassroots army, that brought out black voters in Georgia. Rashida Tlaib in 2020 brought out more black voters for Joe Biden. What was the other one? Wisconsin, more black voters came out for Joe Biden. So it wasn't Jill Stein voters that cost Hillary Clinton the election. And again, I'm not saying this. Black voters have a right to vote for whoever they want, just like white voters. But by the numbers, it was depressed turnout among black voters. Is that Susan Sarandon's fault, or Jill Stein's fault, or Hillary Clinton's fault? Who did she pick as vice president? A vanilla corporatist who spoke Spanish. Who spoke Spanish. By the way, Hillary Clinton in the month of August spent the entire month, August 2016, fundraising in the Hamptons, while Donald Trump, a deplorable man, a phony, a racist, an Islamophobe, a sexist, probably a rapist, he was barnstorming Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, campaigning all the time, sometimes two rallies a day, campaign rallies, while Hillary Clinton was in the Hamptons. So none of this is Hillary Clinton's fault. None of this is her idiot campaign manager who just lived by the data, Robbie Pook. Like, it just baffles me. And you want to know something? Listen, 2016, I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. 2020, I did vote for Biden. I get shit for it. So be it. I know you did too.
Same here. Yeah. Jill and then Biden.
We've given our reasons. If you don't like it, that's fine. I don't voter shame you. It's funny how the people who say don't voter shame us then shame people who vote a different way. But at the end of the day,
harm reduction matters.
This isn't just about Susan Sarandon and Jill Stein. This is about, we're going to do this for the next 5 years. We're going to do this for the next 10 years. They're going to constantly be looking back at 2016, rewriting history, and what have you. And you know what? You could make the argument, Jordan. I mean, when I was at the Young Turks, I did, I guess, a debate with John Iadarola in 2016. I think it was on Fusion, because they were on cable news back then. And it was basically to vote for Hillary or not vote for Hillary. And John took the position to do it, and I took the position not to. And I think John made a lot of good points. My point was, well, we got to kind of break this cycle at some point. And I personally, back then, rather, if you guaranteed me 4 years of Trump, because I didn't think Trump could win re-election, or 8 years of Hillary Clinton, I would take 4 years of Trump. Looking back on that, I regret it. I'm going to be honest with you. I regret it. I'll get shit for saying that too, but I regret it. I would have rather dealt with Hillary Clinton, Tim Kaine, and the neoliberals than, Donald Trump and what emerged to be Rudy and QAnon and, Proud Boys and all this. But also, John made the argument about the Supreme Court. And I personally do not think you could only vote based on the Supreme Court. I think if that's put over our head, infinity and beyond, yes, the Supreme Court is very powerful, is very important. Frankly, if you look at it certain ways, more powerful than actually elected officials. But you can't constantly give your vote to people that are selling you out and that are corporatists and warmongers because, well, we're playing this 5-4 or 6-3 game. You have to hold those parties accountable when they have power to actually fight for power, which Obama didn't do. So I don't know. I want to get to one more story, Jen, but I don't know what your thoughts are. Obviously, the most important thing here is women, public health, safety, their freedom. Gotta love all these people who say, "Don't tread on me. Don't you dare put a vaccine in my body." But to women, nope. 6 weeks, that's up.
Yeah, so I think, this is not at all an original point, but it never ceases to amaze me that these Republicans fight so hard against the woman's right to choose, so-called in the honor of life, right? They want to preserve life. But whenever you ask these people, as I did, I attended the March for Life or whatever it was called for these before COVID happened, so a couple of years ago. And when you ask these abortion or anti-abortion advocates, these pro-lifers, about murdering brown children across the world or mass shootings or any of that, they don't want to answer it. They don't have an answer for it. In the case of Focus on the Family, when I asked their person, they started calling people and getting really upset. By the way, that's Dr. James Dobson's Focus on the Family, just awful Christian organization that I grew up surrounded by, just totally batshit. But they don't, it's like their brain short circuits when you say, okay, if you are talking about the preservation of life, what about all of the lives in Afghanistan or Iraq or, on our streets, in our cities, where police are murdering Black men and women all the time? And where is the concern for that if this is about the sanctity of life? And they don't have an answer. So that always drives me insane, and as it should all of us. So this is awful. This is devastating for so many women. Banning abortion doesn't work. Women are always and have always gotten abortions. It is a health issue. It is just going to happen. So it doesn't matter, honestly, what your personal belief is. It's not your body. It's not it's not your choice in that individual instance. So hands off women's bodies.
And by the way, oh, sorry, Jim.
No, that's really my point.
And by the way, just to be clear, abortions aren't contagious. COVID is. So when people try to make that comparison, if a woman
that's insane.
If a woman gets an abortion, I generally don't think she could spread it to the nursing home. Just saying. I want to segue into another thing that, Jen, I got to tell you something I'm furious about. I'm not going to mince words. We're going to name names. Colin, if you could pull this up. So, a week or two ago, I got into it with Glenn Greenwald on Twitter. Glenn, disclaimer, incredible reporting, won a Pulitzer Prize on Snowden, has done other great reporting on corruption in Brazil that actually freed the former president of Brazil, Lula. So this isn't about his reporting. He deserves every award and accolades for that. But doesn't make one a god. And if we disagree, Glenn's whole point is there should be no censorship and people should debate. So I got onto Twitter. It wasn't just me. It was Walker Bragman, a journalist, because Glenn was making the point that we need to we need to open up the schools. It's just destroying children's lives that they've been out of school this long, and the long-term effects on children's lives, and social development and socialization is you gotta compare those risks to the risk of death or other things. And my point to Glenn, and he also told me to fuck off because I don't have children, which I thought was kind of condescending, but Jen has children. So Jen,
he didn't respond to me. I did comment as well.
Right. So according to Glenn,
I told him I'm a trained teacher. I was a teacher. I also have children, and I agree with Jordan. He didn't seem to.
So Glenn's argument was only about death and used to be clear, right-wing talking points about car accidents. This is what right-wingers say after mass shootings and many other things. Well, more people die in car accidents every year. You're going to outline driving? And Colin has this. We did it. That was 1 year of car accidents, 38,000 deaths in 2020. That was 1 week of COVID deaths. Not children, but just COVID deaths, period, 9,000. And then extrapolate that over a month. Over a month, it was almost at the amount of people that die per year. And these are the numbers recently. So I said to Glenn, this is, first of all, car accidents are not contagious as far as I know. It's confined to the drivers, one driver, two drivers, multi-car pile up. It doesn't then spread to schools and sporting events and what have you. Kind of an obvious point. But I don't know, Glenn, it's not just about death. Like I said, Dr. Greenwald, do you know the long-term effects on children who get COVID? Do you? Because I don't. I don't even think the experts do. They're still trying to figure out the long-term effects on adults. And Jen could speak to that because she's had a nightmare of a time. So I don't want to say I don't have children. I have a nephew and niece. I have seen in my nephew, it's been difficult for my brother who had him and my niece home, basically him doing all the parenting while working because his wife was back in school. But I've seen my nephew seems to me to be okay, but being in the house all the time, he gets a little more unruly, and boys will be boys. But my brother found a way, even though he was out of school, to still allow him to socialize with other kids in the neighborhood, social distancing, things like that. But to be clear, I don't want to pretend that this isn't risky or isn't detrimental to children to have them out of school. I mean, Jen, you could speak to it because you've had your experience. But the main thing is, I made a point to Glenn, you're only comparing this to death. If you're talking about the risk to children and their social development, why aren't you just as concerned about the risk to their physical bodies and their cognitive development? Children's bodies are not fully formed till about 2021. Mind, cognitive development. So do you know the long-term effects of this? Which he just wouldn't answer. Well, Colin, if you could show this. One data point, but I think it's relevant. If you could actually click on the story to make it easier to see. 1 in 7. Could you zoom in, Colin? 1 in 7 children who test positive go on to have long COVID. Studies suggest. This is from the United Kingdom. Compared survey data from about 3,000 people aged 11 to 17 who tested positive for COVID-19 in England between September 2020 and March this year, and 3,700 children who tested negative. The study's findings suggest that long COVID was the likely cause of 1 in 7 children who had tested positive experiencing 3 or more symptoms 15 weeks after infection. 1 in 14 children reported 5 or more symptoms. So I want to be fair, Jen. I criticize people who cite like some random study in Alaska or some random study in, Sweden. But this is the United Kingdom, NHS. They're comparable to the United States, not in population, but just healthcare. And this is data that shows 1 in 7 children are having long-term symptoms, which that study does not indicate. Okay, if they're having long-term symptoms, we probably don't know how long are we talking. Do the symptoms go away and then come back? So this was my whole point to Glenn and others. It's not just about the death count of the risk of death. It's also about the risk to damaging their bodies and minds. And now we have some data indicating, yeah, there is some long haul going on in children.
So this is a very, this topic to me is very complicated I get all the pieces, but the answer to it is not complicated, if that makes sense. So what I'm saying is there are a lot of complications. There are a lot of things, including for me personally. But the answer is we need to keep kids safe. I won't go into too much detail because it's, my kids are a bit older, and it's, their call when to share their info or whatever. But my kids have really, really struggled. I have one child who is on the autism spectrum, and routines are very important and always have been for him. But so COVID is, I mean, it's hard to not reveal everything because that wouldn't be right to do, while also trying to explain what I mean. So kind of bear with me. It's thrown him off course to not be in school, to not be around other kids, to not be able to socialize. My other son, who's neurotypical, he also struggles in very different ways. And he's going to be okay. But for other kids, and I'm talking about it now, an aggregate of kids that I know, it's devastating and hard and horrible to have to be out of school. The loss of knowledge. As a teacher, I know that even when it's just, summer vacation, you have to do a lot of review the next year, because a lot of children don't get in-home instruction or keep up with their reading at home or whatever. And that's understandable. Parents don't have time to be a teacher for their school on top of their, in many cases, multiple jobs. But there is a loss of knowledge that goes on there. And so as teachers, we always, help bring back what they learned the previous year. You spend a month or two on that before you can even move on to the new stuff. And so now you have COVID, which the kids were out of school the year before last for a huge chunk. They were out for, but by out, I mean out of the building for all of last year. And then now a lot of kids are returning. I can tell you the decision that I made is my older son is vaccinated. And for us, he not because we can personally afford it, but he is in a very good school for kids like him. And he has 5 kids total in his class, like in his entire grade. So they're very easily able to socially distance. So I've made the decision to send him to school. All that is to say that it's complicated. And I get it. I get what I don't understand why Glenn is making the arguments he's making in the way that he's making them. But for those who are arguing in good faith, we have to send our kids back to school. It's time, on and on. I have to say, I get why you're saying that. And there are devastating effects to learning, to memory, to social development. I have a very young family member. He's 2 years old, and he really hasn't seen people much in his life. Only just now that we're vaccinated have we ever, since he was a really tiny guy, been able to hug him. My youngest is right on the cusp. He's not yet allowed to be vaccinated. I hope that they allow that age to get vaccinated soon, but he's still not allowed to hug his cousin, and his little cousin loves him more than looks up to him so much, and they've never touched since a little baby. So I get it. I get that there's a lot of heartbreak. There's a lot of difficulty. There are kids really struggling with the lack of school. I've worked and I live in a rural area. I've worked in schools that are devastated, very poor schools. And I understand a lot of those kids aren't going to get fed if there's no school. I understand that parents have to work and they have nowhere else to send their children. I understand all of those intricacies, but the point and the answer, so why I say the answer is not complicated, is because we as a society have to figure this out in a way that keeps everyone safe. So for the most part, that should mean, especially in areas or localities that have high COVID rates, in-person school isn't right now. Masking is right, regardless of the location status. And vaccinations are crucial for those ages who are allowed to get them at this point. But we have in my local area, when needed, they set up broadband for children who didn't have it. They set up, and this is rural, so it's like satellite. It's not like real broadband. And food pickup, food delivery. So there are things that can be done in answer to all of these issues. Well, not all of them. The mental health issue is still there, but having mental health struggles, having to catch up in school, that it's horrible and it's hard, but it's better than death. It's better than living with long hauler for the rest of their lives. It's better than passing it along to an older family member who passes. Whatever. We need to keep safe. We need to be smart. And it's infuriating to me to see arguments like Glenn's.
I just want to be clear, Jen. It's not just Glenn. This is a whole.
Of course.
Yeah, this is a whole bunch. Not just Glenn. He's just the most, with the highest followers.
Well, yeah, and Zaid Jilani, formerly with The Intercept, who's gone, has different opinions now. It makes me angry because in certain cases, and I'm not speaking of a specific person at this time when I say this, it is not said in good faith, and it's said out of contrarianism, but that is going to lead to deaths. And especially for those who have large platforms, to be contrarian, just to do it, or even if you think you're right, but to make comparisons that don't make any sense. You're putting propaganda out there that is going to get people killed. And I don't know if you have this pulled up, Jordan, but Glenn said the exact opposite of his point here.
I don't.
So I hope you have that
did.
right.
He did when it was really bad in Brazil. Walker pointed that. He said the exact opposite of his argument now. And when Glenn was called out on that, he said, well, this was before there was a vaccine, which doesn't make sense because most children aren't vaccinated, so they don't have the protection of the vaccine. And, the other thing I'll say at the end of the day, and I said this to someone on Twitter, and again, I don't have a kid yet. So Jen is the authority in this discussion. But sometimes you're in an unprecedented situation. Sometimes you're in a situation that there are no good options. It's a menu of horrendous options. And you have to pick, we talk about lesser of two evils. In this case, it is the lesser of horrible options because it is bad. I know some of what Jen's talking about, her personal situation. I know other people that have had tough situations with their kids not being in school, childcare, the strain on marriages. It's not good. But what is the alternative? Sending your kids into a contagion box where, okay, maybe the data shows they won't die, but you also don't know how it will affect them getting COVID. Where I just showed you, at least in England, we're having 1 out of 7 children age 11 to 17 having long haul symptoms. The other thing is, I would be for sending them to school if it was possible across the board, wealthy areas or dirt poor areas, to have ventilation, which is hard when the weather gets colder, to have well ventilated spaces, to have them in pods with barriers, to actually have social distancing, which is extremely difficult with children who want to play and, all that. I'd be for it, but that's not realistic. I mean, my aunt is a teacher. The horror stories I've heard during COVID, it's not realistic. So what is the option? Is the option on one hand to deal with all the challenges that Jen is talking about, parents have to deal with and children have to option, or kind of playing Russian roulette and sending them into a contagion box? Now, in some areas where it's not as bad and cases aren't as bad, I think it's possible local to local, like community to community, based on the school district, based on their resources, to as safely as possible send them back. But this notion of just send them back nationwide, I mean, are you looking at the cases? I'm not just talking to Glenn. I mean, the cases are going through the roof. Deaths are now at 1,400, over 1,400 a day. In the South, pediatric hospitals are filling up with children. I just showed you the data from England where children are getting long haul symptoms. And I got to tell you, to Glenn, I mean, by the way, I mean, first of all, the car accident comparison is just the right wing talking about it. It's bullshit. I already showed you that more people are dying of COVID than car accidents. But even if you wanted to go with that car accident example, because he said, well, should we ban driving, this and that? If all of a sudden 1,400 people were dying a day from car accidents and there was 160,000 car accidents a day, I'm pretty sure people would be talking about safety and what we could do to decrease this incredible surge of car accidents.
Well, that's why I say, like, he's smarter than that. This is such a dumb argument that, again, he previously made the opposite argument because that is the correct argument to make. But anyway, we have things to make us safer from car accidents. We have airbags. We have seatbelts. We have road signs and lines and laws to follow. We have those things. So the vaccine is, a safety measure. Social distancing is a safety measure. Doing things virtually is a safety measure. Masks are a safety measure. Like, what? It's just simply an idiotic comparison.
And the last point, because I want to bring in a different component to this, which is really fucking horrifying. He said to me, like, who are you to take your, what was it? Your irrational judgments about children and basically enforce that over other parents. Don't you realize you're doing the exact same thing? First of all, it's your opinion that what we're saying is irrational. So that's your opinion. It's not a fact. It's your opinion. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has them. So it's your opinion that we're being irrational. So when you say, who are you to use your irrational judgment and basically enforce that over parents and what they should do with their children, you're doing that in reverse. You think what you're saying is rational. You think what you're saying is rational, but you are taking what your judgment is, that your judgment is, well, the risk to children's development far outweigh the risk to death or long-term illness. So open up the schools and trying to enforce that over other parents. Well, guess what, Glenn? With all due respect, most parents aren't wealthy like you. Most parents, don't have the option. If they were, if they didn't want to send their kids to school, they can't stay home with their kids. They can't afford around the clock childcare or tutors. And Walker pointed out in most places, they don't even have the virtual option if parents didn't want to send their kids to school. So to you, other people who are irrational about COVID is trying to enforce our views on other parents. You're doing the exact same thing, only you think your views are rational. To me, they're right-wing talking points. And the other thing is, with all due respect to Glenn Greenwald, and I mean it, I respect his journalism. But you say, well, if you don't have kids, then you should shut the fuck up. Well, you don't live in America, so who should you shut the fuck up about American politics? I mean, what kind of nonsense thing is that to say? Oh, you don't have kids, so have no opinion on sending kids into a contagion box. But you live in Brazil, yet you're the authority on all things American politics. Which, by the way, of course you should be able to comment on American politics. So I don't want to make this just about Glenn Greenwald, but I agree with Jen. These are insanely influential people. I'm not saying their followers are dumb or anything like that. I still respect Glenn's journalism. I don't respect kind of a lot of what I'm seeing recently. I think he's pushing out contrarianism under the guise of, down with liberalism, contrarianism for contrarianism's sake, and dressing it up somehow as like, going against the elites and the liberal class and the limousine liberals. Listen, limousine liberals exist. The Democratic Party is corrupt. We agree on all these things, but there's also facts and data on other issues. So I also want to point out, Jen, I don't know if you saw this. As we have said here, sorry to trigger the anti-vaxxers, if this keeps going on and on and on, we're going to have mutations on and on and on. Colin, could you pull this up? There is now another variant in America. Case of Mu. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, if it's Mu or Mu, COVID variant that may evade vaccines found in these states. I'm not going to get personal, but literally before I started this live stream, I spoke with somebody who just got diagnosed with this COVID, the Mu variant. If we could read the article, the Mu COVID-19 variant, which some scientists worry may evade vaccines, has been detected in the vast majority of states in the United States, although it accounts for fewer than 1% of total cases. By the way, if you go back to the original stories of the Delta variant, it read exactly like this. Detected in the vast majority of states in the U.S., although cases are relatively low. This is literally, we're seeing this only with a different variant. The World Health Organization labeled the Mu strain a variant of interest on Monday, the fifth variant to earn the designation. Officials' concerns about the variant stem from its mutations, which indicate it could have the potential to evade vaccines. And while cases are low, the World Health Organization noted in a report they're consistently increasing in Colombia, where it originated, and Ecuador. All but 3 states in the U.S., Nebraska, Vermont, and South Dakota, have had reported cases, according to Outbreak.info. It has been most prevalent in Alaska, where it accounted for about 4% of nearly 4,000 samples. So on one end, Jen, we don't want to alarm people. There still needs to be a lot more data and numbers about this. But the bottom line is, because COVID has become a culture war instead of a public health crisis with scientific data that should be followed, and because I'm not going to coddle the unvaccinated, there are certain communities that are not getting vaccinated that I have more understanding of, particularly Black communities that have not had good experiences in America and have been experimented on. Obviously, there are some communities where they can't even get out of work to go get vaccinated. But for the MAGA / QAnoners / Trumpers, now Proud Boys, whatever, the fact that these folks aren't going to get vaccinated or haven't so far, by the way, a lot of these folks are totally down with the Texas abortion law. They'll tell women what to do with their bodies, but don't you say a word about me putting a vaccine in my body. That is why mutations keep happening. It is not complicated. So,
well, and that's why I have such vitriol towards those who have a platform and are, so they're not only making their own individual choice, they're influencing others to make the choice to not get vaccinated, or to make the choice to not wear a mask, or to make whatever choice makes us all less safe. That drives me crazy. And it's happening on the left. I saw in the comments earlier today that earlier in the stream, someone said it's surprising how many leftists have the anti-vax stance. And to that, I don't know, who fits in the category of leftist these days, but science and facts and caring, not me, us, is a leftist stance. And it's shocking to me. I don't agree with Aaron Mate on everything, but Aaron has been very level-headed about the vaccines and COVID safety. And so he made a tweet last week at some point.
Two.
I believe two. Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. It was
yeah.
two tweets. If you recall exactly what the
I think
the gist was.
one of them might have been this week. I'm not sure.
Okay, so it was like a pro-vax stance, or just like a very sensible, normal thing to say regarding COVID safety.
Jen, he literally just put out a tweet quoting from an article. He didn't even give his opinion. It was just quoting data from an article.
And he got ripped to shreds. Ripped to shreds. People saying they knew they couldn't trust him, that why is he selling out? XYZ, you name it. And he was yelled at constantly all over Twitter. He was one of the Twitter leftist main characters for the day. And that is a huge problem, because in what world are leftists, who, I have to think makes up the majority of Aaron's audience. He's in this leftist progressive media space. In what world is the majority of your audience, or the majority of who saw this particular tweet or whatever, why are all of these so-called leftists angrily yelling at someone simply speaking facts about COVID and the vaccines? And the reason for that is because there are people with big platforms who are misinforming people and who are being contrarians for the sake of it.
Because I'll tell you why. And there's more examples. To me, a large portion of the left, unfortunately, it isn't actually about the issues anymore. It is about 100% fidelity and loyalty to burn it all down, hate them all the time. Let me repeat. It's about, you have to be 100% loyal and have 100% fealty to the mentality of burn it all down. Never, if it's government or politicians, no. And another example, some crazy people on Twitter were criticizing Kyle Kalinske, who, has been canceled in some quarters, for the crime of cheering on the fact that Biden is removing ground troops from Afghanistan. So, by the way, I've credited Biden, broken clock, right twice a day. Okay, discrediting Biden for doing the right thing in this circumstance, which, by the way, 3 presidents before him doubled down on. Does that mean ignore the fact that Joe Biden's a racist, the fact that Joe Biden's a corporatist, the fact that Joe Biden is a servant to corporations? What has happened to the left that there is no nuance? There is no nuance. There is no facts. Like, leftists, if you are an actual leftist, you should be happy that Biden is doing this. You don't have to send them a bouquet of flowers, but are you a sellout for just simply stating a fact? It is a good thing Biden is removing ground troops from Afghanistan.
And it's a good thing because of how, Jake Tapper was almost in tears when he announced it. It's a good thing because it's making them shake.
But I'm not saying period, full stop, end of story. Kyle, I think in his last video, tore into Biden for the drone strikes. I don't know if it was Kyle, but some people have pointed out, okay, you're removing ground troops, but what about the private contractors? Of course, these things are valid. You shouldn't just, get a Joe Biden t-shirt and say oh, he ended the war, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, yes. Believe it when you see it. Because how many times have we ended the Iraq war? Every time you think it's over, you realize there's thousands of more advisors there. So I'm not saying let's just, mission accomplished, got it. But at the moment, he has removed the majority of ground troops. That doesn't mean don't apply pressure on Biden. Private contractors, drone strikes, don't stop shaming Biden and calling for ends to, what do they call them? Why am I missing the word? The things he does to other America, put sanctions. The sanctions America has put on Venezuela and Russia and Cuba, the bombs we're dropping in Somalia, Yemen. Joe Biden's not a dove. He's not a lovely peacemaker, but it has gotten so absurd on the left. You have to be against them 24/7. If Biden somehow was involved in pushing funding for the cure for cancer, we have, it would suddenly become, it was a photo op. It was a photo op that he helped cure cancer. I mean, Jesus, you have people online ranting and raving that people are crediting Joe Biden with ending or removing ground troops. I mean, even Jimmy Dore in an interview I just saw said, yeah, it's a good thing that he is removing troops from Afghanistan. And he kind of made the point that we're making, but that doesn't erase all these other things. That's Jimmy Dore saying that. So I don't understand. Like, is it about policy anymore? Or is it just about, venting your hatred? And your hatred, your anger, your frustration, we get it. We're angry too. But like, it just doesn't make sense. And by the way, the same people that were cheering on Aaron Maté for the last few months with his war against TYT are the same people turning on him for the crime of putting out data about vaccination rates and death. It's just, this is not the left. This is a cult, man. It is a cult of nihilists. And
well, I have to say, like, that's part of why I have been off of Twitter. I wrote Jordan last week, and I was like, I need to take a mental health break from Twitter. Could you, like, every once in a while check my DMs just to make sure I don't miss anything important? And they share stuff using my Twitter for status coup, but I said something. I started talking about the eviction moratorium and how I didn't want to directly call anyone out. I'm not trying to start any fights or online wars. I just wanted people to know that the fact that the Supreme Court struck it down was not Cori Bush's fault, and that Cori Bush did a good thing, and that people were missing the nuance of what happened before Cori camped out and why and what the goal was when she camped out, and then what Biden did when this, when it was known that Congress was going to have to act and they didn't, what Cori did, what Biden did. It was never going to last long. And everybody, a lot of people with platforms were purposefully missing the point and misleading people. So I made a tweet stating that I got ripped to shreds because I was a sellout. Don't I understand force the vote? Don't I understand this one sucks? Like, I literally got off Twitter because people can't disagree. People, I used Mega Block. Like, I could not handle the disingenuousness and the personal attacking for simply stating the truth of what happened, which other people are not doing and are just saying, see, Cori Bush sucks. See, I told you. And no, that's not what happened. Like, facts do matter.
And by the way, a lot of these people just are straight up lying. I mean, they're saying things like, no, Cori Bush only did that because it was blessed by Nancy Pelosi and Biden, and, it was all agreed upon. So it was for show. Biden let the eviction moratorium expire. Pelosi let the eviction moratorium expire. What do you mean it was blessed by them to go out there for 5 nights? By the way, they were out there publicly calling out Biden. I mean, do we live in the same fucking reality? It was blessed by Pelosi, and that's a lie. It was not. The only reason Pelosi and Biden did it was because they were being shamed by Cori Bush and others, and the media started covering it. That's the only reason. Now, you could argue, well, shouldn't have Cori Bush and them did it months earlier? Yeah, they should have. They should have. I agree with that. Wait.
We'll do it.
Does that erase that they did it? Is it Cori Bush's fault that the Supreme Court did what they did? Is it Cori Bush's fault that Joe Biden yesterday or today withdrew their complaint and are allowing, just passively saying, all right, if the Supreme Court says it, we're not going to fight it? So honestly, this isn't even nihilism anymore. It's insanity. And I'll just say, Jen, maybe I'm not as kind as you. All these fucking people online and Twitter, you're punching down, you're attacking activists. Grow the fuck up, okay? I understand you're angry. I understand a lot of you are struggling. We have said that over and over again. But don't sit here and think you could just call everyone and their mother a sellout, a fraud, a coward, or this or that. And then if you are challenged at all, not smeared, what you're saying is challenged whatsoever. Oh, you're bullying me. Oh, you're punching down. Oh, you're attacking working class people. Yeah, I'm attacking working class people. I don't think Jen or I need to defend our relationships or our actions with working class people. the proof is in the pudding, what we do for a living, while these fucking commentators sit in the studio bloviating. Okay? So we're not attacking activists. We're not punching down. I care about the progressive movement. I think Jen cares about the progressive movement. When I see good people, mostly good people, being sold a bill of goods and bullshit, and being basically led off a cliff, a slow death march to nowhere. Because a lot of these people think what they're doing is like confronting politicians. You're not confronting politicians by doing hashtags. You're not confronting politicians by criticizing them endlessly on YouTube. I'm not saying don't criticize them. What I have asked, which is I've been attacked for punching down, what I have asked is what after? What next? What beyond hashtag fraud squad? What comes beyond just literally fucking 20, 30 videos a week? It's like rinse and repeat on AOC and Bernie and this and that. I've never said don't criticize them. I've criticized them. But what else is there? What do you have a strategy beyond that? With all due respect, don't tell me about the Medicare for All march. It's a march. It was great. We covered it. That's not a strategy. With all due respect, don't tell me MPP, because that's a long-term thing if it ever is going to succeed. That's not a short-term play to getting Medicare for All, a Green New Deal, saving the planet. And frankly, if anyone tells you it is, they're either naive or they're lying to you. So I'm not saying don't, if you're interested in third parties and building a third party, don't do it. But all of these people are it's very easy for them to diagnose what's wrong. The Democratic Party is corrupt. The squad's not fighting enough. Bernie's a sellout. Okay, well, if you think that, fine. What else? Are you working to organize local groups in your community to form economic protests? Are you communicating with the workers striking in Alabama, in Portland, in Virginia, in Chicago, in Maryland, Nabisco, coal miners, Frito-Lay workers successful, Amazon workers trying to organize, now Starbucks workers trying to organize a union? Your favorite channels, do you see those channels covering those? Take a scan, how many videos they've done on the things I just outlined. So I'm not going to stop challenging this mentality. I'm probably at some point just going to say, fuck it. It's like speaking to a wall and just move on with an audience that cares about policy and issues. Because we call this status coup, not status rant. Ranting is not an action. It's just venting. I like to rant now and then, but it's not an action. It's not organizing to do anything, to accomplish anything. It's just ranting. And let's not pretend it's entertaining and gets people a lot of clicks and profits. So, I don't know what else to say, but when you see progressives, oh, Cori Bush is out there. She saved millions of people from getting evicted. Yeah, maybe for a couple weeks. That matters. Oh, it's just a photo op. Doesn't matter. That is nonsense.
It gave people time.
That is nonsense.
It gave people time.
When you see, the AOC and the squad right now, at least verbally, organizing as a block, saying we're not going to vote for the bipartisan infrastructure bill without the reconciliation bill that has climate policies. You see any of these people criticizing them for not organizing as a block? Pointing out right now, at least, they're organizing as a block because it's not about the issues anymore. It's about hatred. And I got to tell you, I don't, as somebody who's been on the road covering this for 6 years and has seen the beauty in when people take action and the movement comes together, right now, it's what you're seeing is not a movement. What you're seeing is a cult to nowhere.
It is a cult to nowhere. And it some people asked why we're talking about it if we don't like infighting. Well, so that's the thing. Notice I specifically am not saying names because that's what people want. People want to make a new circular firing squad where everybody gets more clicks and stuff. That's what I'm saying. What I think we're saying is like, look out for these people. Like you'll see it yourself. Look at the tweet I am taking a break from Twitter for. because I made that tweet. I said, call out Nancy and Chuck and analyze what Corey actually did and what the purpose was. And then I said, keep holding her and the squad to account. And then I said, let's focus on what really matters. And then I tweeted several status coup videos where we have personally interviewed people who were about to be evicted, who were already evicted, etc., because the infield reporting matters, and that's the point. So I'm really sad about what's happening in the online left right now. That's partially why I'm talking about it, and it's because I care about the progressive movement. I care about progressive policies. And when I see nonsense and lies and purposeful obfuscation of the truth and doomerism, which does not mean what some people think it means and are trying to make it seem like, oh, you're just calling out poor working class people when you say doomerism. Everyone's upset, and that's why they're doomers. No, that's not what we're talking about. Doomerism is the type of mindset where literally nothing matters. Literally nothing's ever going to change or get better. Nothing matters. So let's get mine. Let's burn it on down on the way. And let's cancel anybody and cause some shit to stir up for anyone who doesn't agree with us. That's what it means to be a doomer. So I think I just want everyone to look out. I really hope that progressivism finds its footing again, because these policies matter. These policies have popular support largely because of the progressive movement. Yes, started by Bernie Sanders. Like him now or not, whatever, it doesn't matter to me. We've said our piece on Bernie, and we will continue. But keep your eye out and do focus on the actual people, including yourself, and not online personalities.
I'll say three things before we wrap up. First of all, you asked, why don't we name names? I wish I could name names. It's every day there's a new fucking YouTube host along these lines. Every day it's new tweeters along these lines. I mean, it's not a mystery. It's not a mystery. This is a whole cottage industry of YouTube channels and tweeters. And honestly, in certain cases, I don't even know if they're paid ops. Some of them.
Some are just popping up out of the woodwork, getting popular right away, getting on other shows right away, getting awards really fast.
Right. Like you say, why not name names? Because it's not one person. This is like a game of whack-a-mole. Secondly, I want to be very clear, because probably will be twisted and our words will be twisted. They usually are. I don't care if you criticize the squad.
Right.
I don't care if you criticize Bernie Sanders. You could come up with whatever hashtag you want. I might think it's stupid, but have at it. This isn't about tone policing you. This isn't about defending politicians. I've said over and over, the squad has folded like a cheap tent. It has. I mean, it just has. AOC, I don't think she's corrupt. I think she's politically naive. I think they're weak. I think they've been seduced by DC and this long game nonsense. And maybe Pelosi threw them a few breadcrumbs. So they thought, oh, if we just play ball, we'll get committee seats, and that will allow us to rise the ranks, and eventually we'll be able to seize power. Very much the Elizabeth Warren mindset that if I just have a seat at the table, that's better than being on the outside. Well, how's Elizabeth Warren working out for you? So this is not about telling you not to criticize politicians, to defend Bernie, to defend AOC. If you don't like him, that's fine. What we have been saying, and if you ask the people you've been following, what is their strategy? Ask. What else other than that? Because I got news for you. Criticizing politicians as 80% of the strategy and thinking like criticizing them online is quote unquote confronting them. It's not. Guess what? Organized labor at the end of the 1920s into the early 30s, they came together. They didn't go after the new Gilded Age or Herbert Hoover or pressure FDR with like signs. Obviously, they didn't have hashtags back then. They organized. Obviously, Labor was much stronger back then, but there was organization, there was action, there was protests. In those cases, organized labor, there was a lot of strikes, which you're seeing pop up right now. Not on the levels of the 1930s, but do you know for 20 years in America, the last 20 years in America, there was maybe a handful of worker strikes? You're starting to see new ones pop up every week. In over 20 years, there was very few actual union drives in America. You're starting to see new ones pop up every week. There is hope. Don't let these people make you think it's all for naught. It'll never change. Let's roll up in fetal position. There is hope. I know it's a lot more clicky and entertaining, and you get a lot more profits by just saying burn the whole motherfucker down, and it's hopeless. There is hope. My point to you, if you're going to criticize politicians, fine, I criticize them. What next? And by the way, we understand for a lot of people, there is no what's next because they don't have the time or the resources to go join community groups to take an action or go take an action. And that's fine if you're not in a position to do that. But you have to understand, no actual change in the history of America or the world came from people spending 80% of their time fighting each other on Twitter and YouTube or whatever the communication mechanism was in those days. What happens was people actually got outside, took to the streets, did strikes, not violently, but threatened politicians' power. You're not threatening the squad by calling them names. You know how you threaten the squad? Come up with a viable primary opponent. I don't think they'd win because most of these squad members are wildly popular in the districts they serve. But if you want to get the squad out and put in people you think are going to fight harder, go recruit a primary opponent. Hey, I covered a protest outside AOC's office. I think it was in Queens. I thought it was great. Susan Sarandon spoke. Other people spoke. They weren't ranting, fraud, squad, Lucifer. They were saying, please deliver on what you said you were going to deliver. Please fight. We want to be with you, but please fight. I thought that was great. I said to them, hey, we'll cover the next one if it's actually at our DC office. Because this isn't about loving AOC or worshiping politicians. That's what they're distorting it as. That's what they are lying to you about. They're making it seem that what we're saying is being Democratic Party sheepdogs and all this stuff. What did you get for incrementalism, Jordan? What are you getting with this strategy? Seriously. What are you getting? What are you accomplishing with a strategy of we're confronting them by ranting at them online? We're making them fear us.
Or ranting at them offline. Well, and also to add to that, this might be the same commenter, but saying, so this is Credit Card FM saying, but hopium and incrementalism is not a solution either. Well, so let's break apart what hopium. So Reddit terms, the cool new terms that people come up with, like hopium, are designed to take you off course. People do truly feel that way, but you're like trying to make it uncool for people to have hope or to feel bad for having hope. That's different than like the false hope that like the Democrats would give you. But having hope and real change and real working class direct to actions is not hopium. And as far as incrementalism, yeah, we can debate that in good faith, but there are a lot of people who are tossing around terms like hopium and incrementalism to immediately shut down people's brains. I'm not saying you, to immediately shut down their brains. Those are trigger words and say, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to have hope. I want it all or I want nothing. I want it all or I want nothing. Hopium and incrementalism bad. No. Listen, what are people telling you and why? We have to have hope. You care about people, right? So let's do everything we can to help them. Cori Bush helped people get a little bit more time. Is that better or worse than not helping people? and not having people get more time. Well, clearly it's better. So there are authentic arguments to be had here. There are also a lot of just, I mean, terms people are making up to further distract.
And by the way, I mean, I don't agree with him on everything. But what we're talking about, Chris Hedges has been talking about a lot for 20 years. That I don't agree with him entirely on like cancel electoral politics, don't be involved at all. But he has been saying, do not expect radical change to come from electoral politics. We need to organize. He has talked about labor. Okay. This is what we are saying. Like, frankly, if Bernie Sanders was president today, we would not have Medicare for all yet. That's a fact. We just would. I mean, he could try something through an executive action, which might be challenged. But through Congress, Bernie was honest about this, that just him getting in there wouldn't mean the fight's over. I think a lot of people, somebody said it in the chat, maybe have this like instant gratification expectation or instant change right away. And then when I tell you that's not how it is, you say, oh, incrementalism. Well, let me just ask you an honest question. Is free community college a bad thing? Is universal pre-K a bad thing? Is legal status for undocumented immigrants a bad thing? Is expanding Medicare for vision, hearing, dental, is that a bad thing? Because all those things are in this reconciliation package. Are those bad things? The second part of that sentence, it's not mutually exclusive. You can, on one end, be happy and try and get through what you call incremental. By the way, universal pre-K, not incremental. It's a big deal. Paid family leave, which is in that reconciliation package. It's not incremental. It's something people have been fighting for decades. Go ask old people if dental, vision, and hearing is incremental to them. So these things are actual progress. Are they everything we want? No. But where did this mentality steep in that it has to be all or nothing? That there is two things can't be true at once. You can be working 95% of your time to build up MPP, the Movement for a People's Party, while at the same time seeing, you know what? Nina Turner, she's got a good track record. I know she's running for a Democrat, but I want to support her to get in there. By the way, which MPP did support her. I don't think they did anything like, I don't think they supported her like on the ground, but they put out like, you know, supporting we hope you win kind of thing. She was running as a Democrat. Like, where is this mentality that two things can't be true at the same time? Why can't you be happy that there's a reconciliation bill with some good things, which frankly is coming from a Republican corporatist as president? We do not have the White House right now. We don't have majorities in Congress. So why is it a bad thing if there are some policy victories? Why is it a bad thing if ground troops are being removed from Afghanistan? Why is it a bad thing if certain politicians get save people from being thrown to the streets for one day, let alone weeks? And why can't those things be true while at the same exact time you're fighting like hell for Medicare for all? You're working to organize in your community economic boycotts, which I've been saying for a year. That's what's going to get us. That's what's going to get us radical change. Not politicians actually threaten economic power, threaten the donors, the flags behind me, not physically, through protest and actually withholding your money. So I don't know. Maybe I missed this day in like real leftist university, but I don't really get why this new mentality has crept in that while we have Biden as president, why we don't have majorities, we can't say yes when there are some victories. The left has a real problem saying yes. I understand, Eric. Everyone deep down, everyone knows it's nowhere near enough in our sadistic capitalist society, which feeds into the pessimism. I agree with you.
It's like, say, all right, great, we got that one thing. Let's keep working.
Right.
We don't stop.
We agree with you. We agree with you. It's not enough. We should have had Medicare for all 50 years ago. It should have always been in the wealthiest country that the government covered healthcare. So saying it's a good thing that we're getting X, Y, and Z, which, by the way, are not the things I'm talking about are not incremental. The child tax credit, to me, is some incremental. It's not lifting people out of poverty. That's just bullshit. But these other things, which are permanent changes in the law, when you start giving entitlements, it's very hard to undo it. Go ask the Republicans who have been trying to undo Social Security and Medicare for 50 years. The things that are coming in that reconciliation package are entitlement programs, which I don't even like the term because it's not entitlement. As Americans, we should have it as human rights. But I just don't get why strategically people can't say on one end, we need Medicare for all. Look at the flooding and these horrific storms and California being on fire. We need a Green New Deal. Take direct actions. I'm talking protest at banks. If you got to chain yourself to buildings, This October 15th general strike, I think it's a good start. What we need? No, because we need more than one day. But it's a good start. So under that mentality, October 15th is a good start. 1 day general strike. So why are we, is it what we completely need? No, but it's a step. So why aren't we happy with other steps? And again, I'm trying to undo the damage here.
Right.
It doesn't mean you like Joe Biden.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're a sheep for Democrats. If you follow what we cover and you think we're incrementalists, I don't know what you're watching. But I just got to say, and this goes all the way back to our original discussion, there's a difference between opinion and entertainment and actual strategy. There's a difference between opinion and entertainment and actual organizing. Martin Luther King, if you read history, did not get the voting rights bill, did not get the civil rights bill by simply criticizing Lyndon B. Johnson and criticizing white people and, just going scorched earth on them. Martin Luther King built an army. It's called organizing. And it wasn't just him, by the way. He, obviously he deserves a lot of credit. There's a lot of other incredible civil rights activists at that time. They built an army to say enough, and they put their bodies on the line and their lives on the line. And Martin Luther King, by the way, made concessions to Lyndon B. Johnson. You think the voting rights bill and the civil rights bill was everything Martin Luther King wanted? Was everything black people deserved? Absolutely not. But he didn't get historic change by simply spending 80% of his time going in front of a microphone saying, down with the white man. Martin Luther King, in some cases, worked with white people, poor white guys who had a racist history. Coalition building. So, the list goes on and on. Gloria Steinem, Harvey Milk, they didn't get this change that, again, is not enough, but human beings can only do so much. We're up against a capitalist, corrupt system. It was never going to come down overnight, folks. So.
Well, Gloria Steinem got some help from the CIA. But anyway, that's a story for another day. Jorge says, I wanted to comment on this. Ignore other channels, just do your job. That's all. I wish it were that simple. But we are up against a tidal wave of misinformation. So when I see information going out there from someone who puts themselves forward as a leftist commentator, leftist media figure, is rapidly growing or whatever, is influencing a lot of people, and they outright say something like, if we'd had forced the vote, then all the people dying from COVID right now, this is definitely a paraphrase of an accumulation, an amalgamation of different things I've seen, So they're saying if force the vote had happened, we would have had Medicare for all, and these people dying from COVID and getting sick from COVID wouldn't be dying. No, that's not even what the goal of force the vote was. So why are you misleading your large audience to believe that that's the case? That, oh my gosh, and people do just see things on the margins. They see the headlines or whatever. A lot of people don't have time because they're working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, whatever, or desperately searching for a job or taking care of their children. They don't have time to research exactly what force the vote was and what it meant and what's holding Medicare for all up and who was on what side. All they see is someone, and it has to be purposeful, because I can't believe people would be this dumb who put it as their job to be a leftist commentator or reporter or whatever, and completely miss the point of force the vote, yet put it out to their entire audience saying, if we'd had forced the vote, we would have Medicare for all right now. No, that's not what would have happened. The entire point of force the vote was to get people on the record for something they absolutely knew would never, ever, ever, ever pass. And the goal was to then vote for Nancy Pelosi. So that was what force the vote was about, not what people are trying to trick folks into thinking it was about today. And that's why I got so upset about the Corey eviction, Rep. Corey Bush eviction moratorium misinformation. That's why I get upset about COVID misinformation, vax misinformation, force the vote misinformation. We can't just ignore this, because we're journalists who report the truth. We are also people who deeply, deeply care. So sure, we can make a decision to never comment on things that are fake or false or on trends that we see in the leftist space. But I feel a personal responsibility to, because I care about Medicare for all, because I care about people who are now getting thrown out, people who are already getting evicted, even through the moratorium, because it is not me, us. I care that people receive the right information. We have to agree on a set of facts from which to then form our opinions. It is always okay to have discourse. It is always okay to have different opinions. Why are we canceling someone because they didn't agree with force the vote, whose goal was to elect or to vote for Nancy and to get a failed vote on the record, which, by the way, I was for force the vote. But I see why people weren't. And that's okay, because that is one strategy. Force the vote is not Medicare for all. It was a strategy like 8 months ago. And it's still people's only focus. And people are lying about it and spreading misinformation. And so I can't ignore the misinformation.
I want to show a tweet. Colin, I sent it to you. If you could just click on her actual tweet so people could read it. So this was yesterday. I'm not trying to blow up this person's spot, but I just saved the tweet because I think it basically speaks for a lot of what's going on right now. If you don't mind showing it again, Colin. This was me and somebody going back and forth on Twitter, and she said, fair point, but a lot of us have been let down by the progressives we voted for, and that frustration is boiling over. That is honestly what we've been seeing for months. It is people are rightfully upset and frustrated because they were told, let's bring the ruckus to the Democratic Party. They were told we got to get more progressives in office to do things. And now we have enough progressives where, frankly, by the votes, they could shut down Biden's entire. Can you put it back up, Colin? They could shut down Biden's entire agenda because they have enough votes. AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, Ro Khanna, Pramila Jayapal, Jamal Bowman, Corey Bush. You could throw in Mondaire Jones if you want. That's enough votes. If they say no, they could say no to the sky being blue, and the sky wouldn't be blue right now. So I get it. I get why you're let down. I get why you're angry. I get why the frustration is boiling over. But how do we, our whole point, I think, is you have a right to feel all this. Anger could be good. But how do you take that anger to actually now weaponize it in a constructive way? Because not specifically to this person, but we've addressed now, and somebody else just made a comment that I'm going to read in the chat. We've addressed now that a lot of this is coming from a good place. We're upset. We're hopeless, Jordan. We're fed up. We got our hopes up and our dreams up with Revolution, Bernie 2016, Bernie 2020, the squad. We saw that we were so close to winning. Bernie fucked it up. I've said this over and over. I think he could have beaten Biden. He made mistake after mistake. Okay? Yes, Obama, getting all those people to drop out was a huge problem. It was not the determining thing. Bernie lost it because Bernie just didn't have the ability to either tweak his message for older people, not tweak his policies, his message, to reach more older normie Dems. And he also lost it because he wouldn't go for the jugular. He never would. That's just not who he is. So this is not a condemnation if you feel fed up. If you feel, Jesus Christ, fed up, angry. Jen and I just went back to Flint, Michigan. 7.5 years later, people are getting rashes. People are losing their hair still. People are dying that we know. You want to talk about fed up, hopeless, angry? I'm fed up about a lot of things, but I don't choose to. And by the way, Jen and I, you could put it down, Con. We'd be a lot wealthier. Status Quo would be a lot more popular. We'd get a lot more clicks, a lot more profit. If we said tomorrow, you know what, Jen? Fuck it. We'll go out once in a blue moon, once every 2 months to cover something. Other than that, we're doing hot takes, all caps in our headlines. This person's fighting this person, drama. Start reacting to commentary of other people's commentary. Oh my God, we'd shoot through the roof. But we also have something called integrity. And that's not our purpose. That's not why we do this. So I get why you're frustrated, but how do you take that frustration? Because there's just a choice, Jen. We either roll up in fetal position and declare life over. It all for naught. We're never going to get change. And just spend our time canceling people online and fighting people online and calling everyone a sellout who's not 1,000% with me, or they're incremental, or they're punching down because they dare to challenge your nihilism. Or we take that anger, we take that frustration, and we take action. Support these workers striking. Ask them if they need help. Support mutual aid. Try in your local community, even if it starts out as 3 of your friends, to organize some type of group that could build towards economic protests or in-person protests, or can recruit primary challenges to the politicians you don't think are fighting on your behalf. It's pretty easy to bitch. It's a lot harder to take action. And I want to read this other comment, which again, I'm not reading it because it's pointing out what we're saying. I'm reading it because it's true. Andre Gale, $10 in a super chat. I needed to hear this today. The feeling of hopelessness is contagious. The left needs to learn to act cohesively and strategically, become masters at our game and infallible communicators of our agenda. Keywords: hopelessness and contagious. Mm-hmm. But by the way, Jen, I don't think my opinion on the Young Turks is a secret, nor is yours. But I'd be lying to my audience if I told them, if we just took down the Young Turks, if the Young Turks cease to exist tomorrow, if we could just filter out who's the fake progressives, and they're not real progressives anymore. But if we could just get rid of them, because the thing holding us back, Jordan and Jen, is we need to clear out who's pure and who's fake, then we'd be so much closer to Medicare for all. We'd be so much closer to a Green New Deal. As long as we got rid of the Young Turks and whomever else. I got news for you. I don't give a shit if the Young Turks exist or not. To hell with them. If they cease to exist tomorrow, we wouldn't be a step closer to Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, or any. Trust me, there's no reunion coming. I'm not saying this. Well, there will be no reunion between me and the Young Turks, ever. But the point is, what are we accomplishing? Because I got news for you. A year and a half ago, we were very close. Yeah, no moral victories. But before 2015, there was no progressive movement in this country, Jen. There was Occupy Wall Street, fizzled out, and then nothing for several years. Organization came, energy came, millions came into the process because of Bernie and the revolution and hearing a politician finally speaking to what I've been feeling. But before that, there was nothing. And now it's not even a movement anymore. It's a colossal venting session. It's a colossal rage session. And when you call that out, you're called a sheepdog for the Democratic Party, a sellout. Stop punching down. I'm not, when people say, why do you keep addressing it, Jordan? Why do you keep acknowledging it? You're adding fuel to the fire. Well, if I see people I care about, if I see a cause that I care about, if I see a movement that I care about, if I see a movement that one of my purposes is to cover, to illuminate people on this movement, if I see that movement driving itself off a cliff, should I just not comment on it and say, all right, well, if they drive off the cliff, so be it. It's not like we're not covering the stories we cover. It's not like we're not doing our bread and butter. All you got to do is look at where we've been the last 3 months, let alone 3 years. But I can't in good conscience keep seeing this exploding nihilism. By the way, this nihilism is being dressed up as confrontation and, courageous bravery against the Democratic Party. It's not. It's nihilism. Again, let's get back to it, Jen. It doesn't matter if you like the Squad or Bernie. I don't give a shit. You could literally have I wouldn't say a bullseye because, but you could, whatever, you want to have a fuck AOC shirt, have at it. What else? What else? Because I'll tell you what my strategy would be. And I'm not an organizer. I'm a journalist. My strategy right now, if I was these people ranting and raving, would to shift about 60% of my coverage to these strikes happening all over America, to having those workers on your show, to pushing your audience to support them, whether it be through mutual aid, bodies on the ground, to focusing on those strikes and those workers unionizing or trying to unionize, and then trying to spread it. Somebody mentioned the word contagious. Actually, fighting back is contagious. That's why we've been covering, and Jen and I were going to talk about, I'd like to go up to Buffalo. I'd like to cover the Starbucks workers trying to unionize. Starbucks is one of the biggest companies in America, in the world. And they're trying to unionize. I think we should focus on that. It's not my job to help them, but it is my job to cover it. There's also the socialist mayor trying to win in Buffalo. I'm going to keep going back to Amazon and Staten Island. By the way, I posted photos on Twitter earlier. Literally, while Staten Island and other parts of New York were underwater, Amazon demanded its workers come in last night.
That's
literally.
insane.
Colin, if you could go to my Twitter and show that image, it's striking. So there's Staten Island on the left. There's Amazon's warehouse with water coming in through the front door. I'd be having Amazon workers on right now. I actually asked one earlier if they could come on, but they didn't have the availability. What are we spending our time focusing on? It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you can't criticize the Squad, protest, whatever. But Jesus Christ, you have actual movement of labor in America for the first time in 20 years.
And that's contagious too, to your point. Christian Smalls, I think, has had such a big impact. All the folks who work with him on organizing for unions. And it is catching. It's contagious, just like doomerism is contagious. This is too. Action is contagious. I did want to address, someone brought up Matt Christman and the grill pill. So
I don't know who Matt Crispin is or the broker.
Chapo.
Oh.
So the grill pill, I will disclaimer, I don't fully understand it. I've never heard Matt Crispin explain it, but I do visit the Acid Marxism subreddit. And my understanding of taking the grill pill is sometimes we have to get away. Sometimes we need a hobby other than politics other than doom scrolling Twitter or Instagram. So taking the grill pill is find a hobby, go get into learning how to grill different meats, get different grilling tools, whatever makes you happy. The grill pill could be reading outside under a tree, or learning how to knit, or riding your bike, or learning facts about something that's always interested you. Whatever it is, take your mind away. And actually, Jordan tells me this often. Like, I need a hobby outside of my work and politics, just for mental health reasons. So the way I take the grill pill movement, let's say, more and more people are falling into this and learning about this, while we're still fighting. So this is while we're still fighting. We also have to, for mental health reasons, and so that we don't fall into doomerism and nihilism, we have to have something else that we can focus on too. Or instead of, take our minds off. And if you're someone, maybe you've been organizing for a while and you're tired of corporations getting you down, or local politics getting you down, or national politics getting you down, or whatever, and you've been working, you've been putting that work in, or maybe you're just too stressed out in your personal life with your family or your job, whatever it is okay for you to not be focused on politics and progressivism and policies, and to do something else sometimes, to take that grill pill, as Matt Crispin says. The Acid Marxism forum on Reddit subreddit is where you can learn more about that. Shout out to Matt Crispin, have us on sometime on Chapo. But while we take breaks, like mental health breaks, or have other interests or whatever, we have to stay focused on the people. There's a reason that our status quo motto is giving the microphone back to the people, because that's who it's all about. And I think this is the third time I've said it. Shout out to Bernie, not me, us. That's what progressivism is supposed to be about, doing the most good. It's not about us personally. Let's keep fighting. Why would we stop? Why would we stop and just be upset on Twitter? And we need to vent. We need to get it out. We need to hold our politicians accountable. Those things are all important alongside real action.
And I think all we've been saying is, you're not holding your politicians accountable by just bitching at them on the internet. I'm not saying if that's all you could do, if you don't have the time or resources to do direct action, get involved with organizations, that's fine. But it's not, we're not holding them accountable right now. We're just bitching into the ethos. It does, whether your bitching is valid or not. And I think a lot of it is. I've been bitching at the squad. We got to go beyond bitching. We do. Got to go beyond bitching, because you could be right. Your cause could be righteous. Your anger could be justified. But at the end of the day, we got to get some results, folks. We got to get some results. Let's read some super chats here. Thank you, Florings. $3. Lanadale hates the clock. $10. Nice to see you, Jen. Hope you're feeling better.
Thank you so much, Lana. I've been feeling, my COVID long hauler has really been getting to me, and I'll be upfront with you because I think it's important to be, because I know a lot of people, especially these days, are suffering from mental health issues. My depression and anxiety has just been really bad in the past couple of weeks. So yeah, I'm doing what I can to do things to reset myself, recenter myself. So I hope you are all doing that as well. But I am doing so much better than I was many months ago from long hauler. So I appreciate you.
Hold on. Omar Morzi, $20. Thank you for all you do, Jordan. The Democrats will literally do anything to deflect their own failings. Truth. Yeah. And that's the thing. Again, I know it's not allowed anymore. Two things could be true. I don't know. We spent 20 minutes calling out the Democratic Party for their bullshit like an hour ago. And then at the end, we said, okay, but we need to do more than that. It's not enough to just call them out. It's not enough to spend 80% of our time focused on the Democratic Party and singular politicians. And no, we're not trying to defend those politicians. We're trying to show you there's more to actually achieving what we want. It goes well beyond AOC, the Squad, Bernie, and these people. Sure, it would help us if they were leading the movements, the direct action we're talking about, but it could happen without them too. And again, organize primary challenges to these politicians if you don't think they're fighting. We're not saying not to. Cyril, $10. Thank you. Andre Gale, $10. I read this, but I'm going to read it again. I needed to hear this today. The feeling of hopelessness is contagious. The left needs to learn to act cohesively and strategically, become masters at our game and infallible communications of our agenda. SK, $5. Bernie is a great idea man only. He has no spine. He will not fight. I want my $2,600 refunded. I can't disagree on the no spine. I mean, I've been saying it for 5 years. I don't think that erases all the good he has done, which I think you're pointing out. He's a great man, great idea man. He's also a great man. I'm sorry. I've said this to Jimmy privately. I think it's ridiculous to call him a coward and a fraud and these things. Frankly, Jimmy got his audience in the first place because of the Bernie Sanders wave. So you could disagree with the direction a politician has taken. I thought he was very naive during his 2 campaigns. I thought he made a lot of mistakes. I thought he was weak during the debates. I don't think you should tell the audience, yeah, Biden could win. No, you don't tell the audience, yeah, my opponent could win. You say, no, they can't win. That's why I'm running. They cannot win. He cannot win. But a coward, somebody that's been fighting the establishment for 40 years, saying he's establishment now, it's nonsense. It's nonsense. If Jimmy says it or anybody else says it, doesn't mean don't criticize him. I think he should fight Biden and hold out his vote. If Joe Manchin could hold out his vote for everything, Bernie Sanders could hold out his vote until a $15 minimum wage is enacted. No, I'm not voting on infrastructure. I'm not voting on reconciliation. I'm not voting on what to have for lunch until President Biden puts a $15 minimum wage in. Fire the parliamentarian. He could do that. But I don't know why that makes someone a fraud and a coward and all these things. $5. The Squad turned to mush because every Democrat is owned outright by the DNC. I think the Squad turned to mush for a lot of reasons. But at the same time, I know this is a sin to point out, Jen. They've currently been threatening to vote no. They've currently, at least rhetorically, been doing what people demanded they do. And these same hosts are not even recognizing that. And they're saying, I'll believe it when I see it, this, that, the other thing. Well, 7 or 8 of them have been consistent for, I think, a month or two that they're not going to vote for the infrastructure bill if they don't have this $3.5 trillion with climate policies. So at least verbally, they're making the commitment. It's up to us to hold them to it. But at least right now, at least verbally, they are threatening to do more than mush. Alex, $9.99. I sequenced COVID samples for a hospital in Philly. The past 100 we tested are all Delta. It's completely outcompeted every other strain. The number of children, infants getting infected is tragic. Thank you. And this was what we were pointing out, not just to Glenn Greenwald, but to others. This is not only about whether children literally die. Of course, that's the most serious risk. And so far, it seems that that number, at least for now, is not a major concern. But there is a concern of the unknown. We do not know the long-term effects. We do know that data in England now is showing 1 out of 7 children who have contracted COVID are having long-haul symptoms. Not comparable to car accidents. And thank you for the work you're doing on COVID. Hysteric Raider, $5. The left has way too many egos, so I don't think we could ever come together because it's more about being right rather than the message. Thank you from your lips if there is a God. It's more about being right than actually having a mission. I'm stealing that. I couldn't have said it better. It's more about being right. I would add in pure than actually having a coherent mission to win anything. So, above all things, $5. Here's some well-deserved appreciation. Love you. So,
Thank you.
Before we go, I want to point out some good things. I don't know what the number is now, but before I came live, we got 17 new Rockfin Premium members.
18 now. One came in at 4:30.
So now we've had 18 new Rockfin Premium members since my live stream yesterday. I was joined by Robbie Martin, filmmaker. We discussed on Rockfin the post 9/11 anthrax attacks and quite a lot of things that seem tied to 9/11 and quite a lot of facts that have mysteriously been hidden and buried. So that I think we talked for an hour and 20 minutes. That's up on our Rockfin channel.
I'm sad I missed that episode about my buddy Rudy Giuliani. So
yeah.
Everyone definitely check that out. Robbie's great. He and Abby, it's Abby Martin's brother. If you guys weren't aware, and they also have the podcast Media Roots. And Robbie is he's got a lot of knowledge about a lot of shady shit. So definitely check that out.
And full transparency, we've passed 100 Rockfin Premium members, which we've been pushing for. That means our guaranteed revenue from Rockfin goes up. I don't want to get into the specifics of the deal, but if it keeps going up in terms of our premium membership, our revenue keeps going up and up. So that's what we like the fact that we could talk uncensored about topics that deserve coverage, but you cannot talk about here. We also like that as a small business media company, we're getting some guaranteed revenue from Rockfin. So definitely sign up if you can, $9.99 a month to get our premium content and others. And I think we're going to start really focusing now on our Status Coup membership, which we've kind of been dancing a little bit. We're at 2,000 members. Then COVID hit. COVID, obviously, we lost a lot of members. People lost their jobs or got their hours cut. So we were close to 2,000. Then we dipped down significantly. Then we went up. I don't know the number now. I think it's like 1,860 something. So, we got a little bit to go here. We got to get past 1,900, obviously, next. And then try and finally just blow past 2,000. We do owe our members a members call, so I think we're going to do that next week, which is our monthly members call through Zoom. It's a lot of fun, a lot of TMI too. And
we give way too much info. And actually, I've been thinking about some kind of incentive to get us to 2,000 members, to push people over the edge. So Jordan and I will talk ideas, but I will say that I found several pieces of Jordan Sheridan history that we might make as an incentive
I don't know what that means.
For joining, for like 20 people only. Well, no,
let's say 130 people, because that would
no, I'm saying for this specific prize that I found in my closet.
20 people? Oh, so it's something physical.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Colin, do you have the latest markup of the shirt?
So, meaning I would send you this piece of Jordan Sheridan history for signing up.
Sounds exciting. I want one for Millie. Colin, can you put up the latest mock-up of the United Corporations of America shirt? If you can make it bigger, that would be wonderful. I don't know if we're zoom in or something, because it's hard to tell. So we're also trying to develop some new swag for our members to purchase and wear proudly. One of them is the United Corporations of America. Another one is the Fossil Fuckers t-shirt. Have some other ideas too, but we're trying to nail down United Corporations of America. There we go. So the audience last time told me the version we had, wasn't enough pizzazz per se. Not catchy. So I decided let's remove the stars and just throw some cash at this flag. So that square area where stars typically are now has cash. We might add a briefcase with cash coming out of it, and then just the United Corporations of America on it. I think if the audience likes it, we probably need a little bit better spacing, if it's possible, between corporations and of America.
Yeah, we would fine tune.
Yeah. But tell me, Colin's been working feverishly, and I've been a real pain in the ass telling him the versions he's sending suck, and then telling him not suck, but telling him they're no good and need to change. But let us know what you think. Are we getting closer? No good. Hold on. The salmon shorts. God damn it, Beauty and the Diabetes. You want to hear something scandalous? I lost the salmon shorts.
Oh my God, no.
I don't know where they are. Colin, can you put it back up?
You needed to sew them. So
Duder, are they available now? No, because we're trying to get from the audience if they like it. Needs more bootstraps. I don't know what that means. Like the dollars. Okay, that's good. Oh, somebody said no! Exclamation point. You know, you just can't win. You can't win everybody.
Well, we can send out a poll. We can send out a poll of like the last three like the top 3 choices or whatever.
The new design is more simplified, which is usually a good thing. Actually, the new design is more not simplified. The complaint earlier was there's not enough pizzazz. It doesn't pop. So we kind of tried to add the dollars. But that's a good idea. We could kind of come up with a couple options and send it out as a poll. May I suggest making the cash stars bigger and fewer? Good idea. Good idea. I meant no to the loss of the shorts. Those shorts are legendary. I need therapy over this. I had a hole in the private parts in those shorts. So I got it. I went to get them sewed. And I don't know why. When I got it back, I don't know where they are. I'll have to do another round of looking. Those are my favorite shorts. I don't know where I could get them again. But
this is really sad.
The original is the original. It's got a lot of sweat and blood from my travels. I do have the pink shorts, thank God. I still have the pink shorts. Summer's ending, so shorts will be gone. But I'll add some other fashion that people might be able to comment on.
Other fashion.
Anyway, I think that's all I got. Anything you want to say, Jen?
I want to thank everyone for watching and being, like honestly good people. You guys in the chatters and the discourse, like the Status Quo community is so great, and we appreciate all of you.
Absolutely. So, folks, I can't guarantee tomorrow. I've been trying to find a day off, so tomorrow might be it. But, end of summer, Friday, I wouldn't mind taking some time off. I don't know if you know this, Jen. I fucked up my ankle last week.
No, I didn't know.
And, it's not getting any better. So I might have to get an X-ray.
You twisted it?
I don't know. I was exercising, and after I stopped exercising, it felt a little tender on the right of my foot, and then it kind of extended into my ankle. And it's fine when I'm not walking, but then if I walk for a while, it feels tender. So,
but you didn't fall on it. Nothing fell on it.
No.
It's just like maybe you pulled a tendon. Well, you have a uncle foot doctor.
I'm not going to Massachusetts for this.
Yeah, but you could call him for tips.
I did. He said, give it some time, ice, all that. So I've done all that, but it's not getting better. So I might have to, go to physical therapy or get an X-ray.
Jeez.
Because it's not good. And obviously I don't want to make it worse if I'm in the field, walking a lot. So I want to figure out if it's just a minor thing or I need some form of like a sling or who the hell knows. So anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. I don't know if I'll be back tomorrow, but we appreciate you, and back at it next time. Peace out.
Bye, guys. Thank you.